Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Everybody, welcome. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري واشرك في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome everyone. Inshallah, everyone is doing well. Inshallah. Since you are here, you are doing well as far as I am concerned, but I don't know from your side. So I'm pleased to see you all here. So we have been studying the story of Jesus in the Quran. Now it is time to study the verses which are directly related to the purpose of the Quran, why Quran emphasizes on the prophethood of the messengership as far as the life after the messenger of Jesus passes. Because afterwards, we see that there is some sort of controversial subject developed among the Christian theology, and they started arguing about their doctrinal side of how to describe God, how to describe the position of Jesus. Of course, we are very sensitive about talking about the religions who have at least basic common point with the teachings of the Quran and pointlessly comparing it with other religions, such as, for example, comparing Christianity with Islam, Christianity with Judaism, or other way around, and causing competition between them and blaming each other. This is very dangerous, very unhealthy way of discussing. Everybody should present its truth. But at the same time, I would argue what something is wrong in Christendom, but perhaps not mentioning the name of the religion and making it a universal message. Unfortunately, both sides, Christians, Jews, Muslims, but Jews not much so, because they don't get into involvement of arguments, because their main concern is not to preserve the basics of their belief, doctrine, but superiority of a race. So the competition between Judaism and other religions have not at the level of religion, but at the but between Christianity and Judaism, because they have the very common point, although Judaism, Christianity, and Islam have the very common point. Since Judaism is not concentrating on its belief doctrine, they don't mind about the belief side of Judaic religion. They say, okay, we have our Torah, that is enough for us. And also their belief in God is not really essentially contradicts to the belief system introduced in the Quran. But their way of understanding the social life, into relationship between races, etc., yeah, there is a difference, but it is somehow insignificant as far as the core value of the doctrinal side of the religion. But the very heavy fight, if you like, argument, debate going on between Christianity and Muslims, I am very sorry to see for both sides that they are attacking each other, undermining each other, but consequently, they are attacking or undermining the belief of people who follow these religions from both sides. Both of them are harming each other at the same time by joining into the debates. I believe we should just present our truth. If Christianity says, or the Christian people say, what I believe is right, okay, present it. Go ahead. If Muslims say this, but unfortunately, like in the political arena, two parties fight with each other as they think that if the other party close to it is a challenge for them, rather than the real opposition. But in America, it is not the case because always there are two parties, essentially. But in other countries, maybe one party is completely opposing religion, the other one is somehow supporting religion, especially in the Muslim world. It is to a certain extent true for Christendom as well, but especially Muslim countries. So those people, those parties, political parties, compete with each other who have somehow common ground because they see each other as their competitors. Whereas they know that if they argue with the opposite one who really doesn't respect religion, or those people who don't respect religion, they say, okay, they are not our potential voters. That is what going on in the political arena. That is exactly in the same way going on between Christianity and Judaism. That is very disappointing because Christians think that is immediate counterpart, if you like, immediate people that they may be interested in Christianity are Muslims. Muslims think the same thing. But both sides forgot that the real enemy is growing and huge, which is secular understanding of the world. Not believing in God at all. Rather than presenting their argument, not against those people or those ideologies, not believing in God at all, they just undermine each other. So those people who are likely to embrace belief in God, they see, look, Christians say Muslims are wrong, although they believe in same God, in the same God. Muslims say Christians wrong, although they believe, which way is right? Come on. And then they are perplexed, confused. And then they say, even the religious people don't agree with each other. What shall I do with it? And leave it aside. it is very disappointing for the general public, ordinary people, which are, of course, the majority of the population of the world are ordinary people. These academicians are exceptional, and also they know what they are doing. They know what their aim is, so they don't bother about it. They know both sides. That is what we are going to study now, as the Quran mentions the position of Jesus regarded by some people. We are not going to mention Christians, because some Christians say Jesus is Son of God. Some say no, some interpretations a lot. Thank God that Islamic understanding of, or the Quranic understanding of God is clear, straightforward, no argument. The universe everything in the universe needs to be created, and this creator of everything in the universe can only be the one who created the whole universe, period, finish. That is called God. Although some people say that Muslims don't believe in God, but they believe in Allah. It is to me, a mistaken understanding something that if I say God, it means I'm using the Christian language, but you are speaking English. So the Quran says, if you call it Allah or if you call it Rahman, does it matter? What do you mean? So the Quran says it doesn't matter. But we give or attach so much importance on it that even I was invited to give a khutbah in a mosque. I said God in the khutbah. People were shaking their hands. We don't believe in God, we believe in Allah. But I was speaking in English. Of course, I got the warning after the prayer. No, brother. God is the one Christians believe. No. Look at the language. If they speak Arabic, they would say Allah. Because there is no other way to say it. If I speak English, I will say God. There is no other way. So as the Quran says, if you call it God or Rahman, what matters? What do you mean by it? That's what we are going to establish. The main point of the story of Jesus, starting from today, and it will go for a while, not long, but for a while. Okay, verse 88. We studied 87 on the screen now. Maryam, 19th section of the Quran, 88, 7, we studied now. قالوا They say, اتخذ الرحمن ولدا. Of course, the words are carefully chosen. First of all, not اتخذ الله ولدا, اتخذ الرحمن ولدا. That is one point. Another point, what does walad represent? I remember long ago, I don't remember when was it, we studied the section Ikhlas in our series. This we used to have it at NYU at that time, about commentary, explanation, a kind of deep explanation of the chapter Ikhlas. I think it is 111th chapter of the Quran, section of the Quran. The section says, Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Everybody knows it. After introducing God as the one who is absolute, unique, and Samad. It is Ahad and Samad. Ahad and Samad mentions about the same point we said, but different aspect of it. As it in its essence, it is unique in its existence, independent, individual personality, but we don't imagine personality not like a human being. Nothing to do with any of this universe. We cannot liken it. We cannot really give a form to it at all because we don't know nothing. But we know that such a being must exist. That is the difference. Anyway, Samet refers to, very briefly, we are not studying the section class. Very briefly, which kind of qualities then we need to describe this absolute being. Everything in the universe, in order to come into existence, needs a creator, and their creator is the one. But this one needs nothing else. He creates everything directly. But we say angels, commanders, but angels are created. Obedience of the angels are created by him directly. This is the process, how the absolute being's absolute qualities manifest in the universe in a limited and transient form. This transformation is described in the Quran through the angels. Of course, we know that angel is, again, my classical example helps me a lot, and it is beautiful to me. Don't hesitate, use it with anyone. Book is. What makes a book a book? The information in it. If there is no information written on what we call it now, the compilation of something, paper, sheets of paper, it's not book, it is paper, maybe notebook, empty. We cannot call it a book. If there was no meaning in it, it wouldn't be called a book. It will say, I have some papers here, sheets of paper. Do you need one to take no notes? When the information is written in it, it becomes a book. Now, this informational side of the creation is called angelic side of the creation. Now, the information, the formation of the creation of the universe is directly manifested in this universe as if in the form of a book. I think if you have a problem, please, because we need to establish this basic basis in order to understand Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad. That's why I jumped into that subject. So this transformation, I mean, a collection of the sheets of paper is not called the book. In order to become a book, the author must inscribe his qualities in it. But in the form of a book, we see only the quality of knowledge of the author of the book manifested in it. And it became, again, collections of the sheets of paper became a book now. The universe is so meaningful that this inscription of the absolute qualities of the universe in the form of a book is transformed through angels. Now, that is why the description of God in the Quran says, "Walam kufu as-samad." Allahu Samad. God is Samad. God doesn't need anything. God doesn't need paper. God doesn't need angels, anything. But this description, this way of creation, because it is so puzzling how the absolute being manifests its absolute qualities in a limited form, transient form. The absolute must be not limited, infinite, and also not transient, permanent, eternal. But the universe is not. But, the knowledge in the book doesn't cover all the knowledge of its author. But it refers to meaning, the knowledge in the book refers that this book must have an author who has absolute knowledge. No, excuse me. Who has some knowledge reflected here. We don't know the rest of his knowledge. Yeah. We don't know the unlimited, infinite side of God's absolute power, absolute qualities, knowledge, etc. All the qualities. But what we know, these meaning manifested, this qualities manifested in this limited book of the universe demonstrates that its source is an absolute being. That is why the universe is created such a unimaginable way. Book is written only once and published and finished. It is connection with its author. But the universe is not only once published here. Universe is continuously renewed publication. So we understand it's impossible to explain it in terms of this world. So it is impossible. So what we say, Samet means he doesn't need. Everything needs him, the creator, in order to come into existence and have all these qualities manifested in them. And he himself doesn't need any means, any vehicle, anything. He creates everything. But the transformation seems to be from the absolute into a temporary existence, transient existence. It is mind-puzzling. Quran describes it with the name angel. Angels receive the command, transfers. Right. For example, there is a great scholar says, like the knowledge of the author, when he writes, of course, in old school writing, with the pen or not with the pen. It is the pen actually, but it is called with the ink. You get, how do you call it? Sorry?
A quill pen.
Quill pen.
Quill, yeah.
Okay. Well, my friend helped me here. I thank her. So this pen, what does it do? He or she gets the ink from its cup and the knowledge in his mind through his hand, but this is a created word, don't confuse. As if I'm not describing God, I'm describing an author of an ordinary book. From his head, he intends to transfer the knowledge, and through his hand, through the tool, whatever you call it, I don't know the name of the thing, so gets the ink and starts writing in a meaningful way. So the ink leaves a trace on the paper. This trace is transformation. The ink is the means between the brain, knowledge in the brain, and the traces of the ink is the transformation of this abstract knowledge into a written form. This transformation we are accustomed to it. Quran describes God's act of creation not through the ink, through angels. But unlike the author of a book, God doesn't need an externally existent paper, externally existent ink, and other tools used there. Why? They need to be existed as well, created. God creates all of them. This is the way how it is described in the Quran. Don't confuse your classical understanding or common understanding of angel and flying with wings or ridiculous things. There's no such description in Islamic literature. Well, some people may write a novel about it in order to explain in an exotic way to the people how the angels are wonderful. In fact, that's a process. But for an author, ink exists. But as far as the knowledge of the author is concerned, is nothing. Ink is nothing. It doesn't represent knowledge. It is a tool for him. That is why human mind works. How to understand this transformation from an abstract form into a concrete form. That is why God knows my capacity and speaks within this capacity in a wise way. We should not confuse this with anything else. Now, come ink in the example of the book, and hand and other tools are needed by human beings, but God doesn't need this. Samet means this. So, as the structure of the section of Ikhlas in the Quran is so beautiful, gradually starts from the most abstract form of describing God, which is absolute, ahad. What does it mean? Mind cannot comprehend absolute. A samad, another step, a lower step of explanation. That is samad. Samad means, we have been explaining this, samad, transformation of the absolute into a concrete form of the universe, so that you can see it. And the universe witnesses his absolute quality, to his absolute quality, or his absolute qualities. The creation itself. Is the book, then when we read the information, points to the knowledge of the author. Do I know the author? No. Maybe it is called Johnson something. I don't know. Do I have to see his being? And especially, do I have to see him or her writing the book? No, I don't need it. It's not the point. The point is to get the knowledge and conclude that this book must have an author, and this author must have knowledge. That is the simple example in the form of the created world. Now, applied to the universe, we need further explanation. He doesn't need anything. Everything is in need of him to exist, to have these qualities, to continue its existence. It is beautiful, but still I need more information to make a simple God, as if God says, oh, lem yelit, velem yulet. Well, it is the funny way that the old language they use. He has not begotten, he was not begotten. He has not begotten, lem yelit, velem yulet. We understand that welet is something to do with birth. That is why in the Quran, walada, no, here, قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا, it is directly tied to this concept of lam yalid wa lam yulad. Because same root. One of them is giving birth or being born out of something. The other one is what is given birth? Walad, child. So we should not use, in fact, a son, a child, etc. In reality, we should use قالوا اتخذ الله قالوا اتخذ الرحمن ولدا. Translate, they say, some people say, the most merciful has given birth to something, to a being. Of course, in the language of Arabic language, this one who is given walad is a child, but usually Arabic grammar, Arabic language uses the masculine form, not a girl, but they are translated that walad as son. And in the practical language also it is used for son. Otherwise, when you mean a child, if you mean a specific gender, you have to say bint. It means a girl. But if there is no specific case that I should refer to a female being, the Quran uses untha, nisa, plural of nisa, untha, or how do you say, I don't know how to say it in Arabic, it's mastar, of form of the word. No, so, okay. Infinitive form or something like this. I think infinitive form. Anyway, untha means it is something to do with an hyperbole of form of the word untha, like husna, the most, in this form. Whatever it is not our subject. I don't know English terminology for it. So it is not my profession to explain it in English, this kind of details of the language. So, walad does not necessarily mean son, anything given birth. Now, the significant side of it, let me see if there's something in chat. Understand? No. Not, I don't mean it with taftil, yeah, correct. Yeah, correct, yes. Thank you. What's this man? Sorry. Here it is. Miss Amir. Thank you. If it's taftil, but I call it a master. My trouble was with master. This is hyperbole form of ism fa'il. It means active participle. Doesn't matter. It is not our subject. It is not our field. So I shouldn't go there. Now, come to the point. Giving birth. Of course, simplification of the explanation of absoluteness of God, now gradually coming down and down into the practical sides of human beings. How? Yeah, doesn't need anything, but everything needs him, etc. And explanation, lam yalid wa lam yulad. It means, look, explanation of Samad. Samad is the explanation of Ahad. Right? Go back. So explanation of Samad follows after the word used, Samad. So it says, by Samet means he has not given birth to anything. What does it mean? Like of his own nature. For example, mother gives birth to a child like of her own nature, human nature with two eyes like she has, with the ability or not being able to do something, limitations of her power, her power of sight, her qualities. The baby has the same thing. In physical form, smaller part, a smaller form of mother is represented in our practical life as baby, mother's son or daughter. Mother gave birth to something. But essential point is here, the child is of the nature of the mother. Never, ever forget this. Don't talk about this trash discussion saying that God is Father, and from both sides. Christian doctrine, Muslims are attacking Christians, and Christians are trying to defend how to justify this kind of interpretations, saying that God is a father, gave birth to a child. What does it mean? What does it mean? No one is so idiot on earth, so idiot, saying that God was pregnant, gave birth as a female, of course, God is a female, pregnant, and gave birth to a child, and oh, what shall I do with this? Okay, let me put it on the earth as my child. No one ever can say that. Stop accusing each other on a nonsense way. Argue, what do you mean? Argue, what do you mean? Seriously, as a human being, use your reason and just say, I believe that the absolute being would not, however the language you use, give something in the universe as a created form, although created form, but at the same time having the nature of divine qualities like God itself, himself, herself, whatever you call it, doesn't matter, itself. Because basically the nature of the creation is completely contradictory to absolute being. A book cannot be like its author. A machine cannot be like its engineer. A piece of work cannot be like its artist. Artist is a conscious being, preferred, decided to make this piece of art. Author is a conscious being, transfer his knowledge on the paper. It is called book. Book has a different nature of existence. Author has a completely different nature of existence. Their layers of levels of existence is nothing to do with each other. Book has nothing to do with human being. Human being has nothing to do with book in their nature. That's why this word is extremely important. There is nothing in the world of the nature of being a divine existence, divine essence. It means absolute. Nothing, by definition, a created, needy being can be described absolute. That's what the Quran's argument is. This. Very clear. And this absolute cannot be in need of somebody else or something else to be given birth. This is irrational, because if it needs to be given birth, it must inherit the qualities of the nature of an absolute being from another absolute being, it will be needed, it would be a neither one. If it is the neither one, cannot be the source of existence of anything. Because source of existence, mother, in the practical example, cannot be the source of existence of the baby. She is just a vehicle, like the paper of the book. All the qualities in the piece of a meat in her body created by the one who created the mother, and this fetus is created by the one who created the mother as well. So common point says both of them are created. So that is why they look like each other and they have the same nature, because their common point is, this common denomination is being created. Clear? No, my language, you know that if it is not clear, please help me. And say it in a native English language. So this logic must be universalized. It means, lam yalid wa lam yulad means there is nothing in the universe which has absolute qualities. Cannot be. Cannot be. Of course, we shouldn't get into this stupid, simplistic argument saying that, can God create another God? What do you mean by, if something created cannot be God? If something God cannot be created, what are you talking about? This is just playing with the words and, confusing the minds of innocent, not deep thinking people. It is just trick. And the language is oxymoron, contradicts within each other. God creates something, means this something is created. Created cannot be God, but what are you talking about? Do you understand this trick of the language, vocabulary? So we shouldn't get into this idiot argument. It is very simple. But really, those people who know about is the Quranic theology, I'm not saying Islamic theology, because Islamic theology is confused with the theology developed by Muslims. We have to be aware of this as well. So we say Quranic theology. How Quran presents the uniqueness, absoluteness of the Creator. Okay. Quranic theology. The other one says biblical theology, doctrine, or the doctrine of the gospel. Okay. Tell me the essence of what you are saying. Don't play with the word, God doesn't have a son. Don't be ridiculous. What do you mean by that doesn't have a son? What do you mean by son? Explain it. Because Quran always uses symbolic language. We have to understand it. That's why Christian theology needs to be interpreted. Quranic theology needs to be interpreted. Why? If they claim to be the Word of God must have an absolute knowledge behind it, ingrained in it. Absolute cannot be comprehended. So when I read the word, it is also a very important point. Some people confuse about it and make that there is no relativity. Yeah, there is. Knowledge of God is absolute, and my and your understanding of this knowledge is your interpretation as, and not absolute. It is relative and limited. Why do you play with the game? Who can say that I know what God meant in this verse absolutely as he meant to be? Are you God? If you know absolute, you would be a God. You would be claiming to be a God. What are you talking about? Now, This universe points to the necessarily existence of the absolute truth, but nobody on earth's understanding of the truth is absolute, relative. It is relative. Now, we should be very sensitive about the words we are using. That is why I say it is really irrational, stupid, to argue between theologies of different religious traditions. Don't mention. Mention what you mean by Son of God. From Christian perspective, from Quranic perspective, what do you understand from the Quran? You have to say, look, I'm sorry, I understand from the Quran like this, God should be described in this way. Anything of this universe should be described in this way. Whatever the qualities in the universe that we can detect through scientific discoveries are the discoveries of the qualities of God, the Creator. This is true for both doctrines, Christianity and Islam. In its political context, in its, economical context, in its human psychological context, they get different forms. Muslims fought with each other about the different ways of understanding this theology. Christians are fighting with each other about the difference of understanding. But what is one of the practical main apparent difference between Christian theology and Islamic theology, or biblical theology and Islamic theology, but as it is understood and interpreted by people in Christianity, the same thing goes exactly equally at the same level, understood and interpreted by Muslim scholars. So Muslim scholars' understanding of the relationship between what the theology of the Quran says, what the universe says, goes hand in hand, because universe is the witness to the truthfulness of the theology, Quranic theology. But on the other hand, on the other side, the interpretation of the text doesn't go and he has his hand with the universe. So in certain period of Christian history, there was a fight between scientific researchers and Christian followers of Christianity. It never happened in Islamic world, because you cannot understand the Quran without referring its doctrine to the universe. But Christianity says our witness is not the universe. Doctrine says not the universe, but our witness is human faith. You've got the faith. We have to be very careful, as I understand the people here trying to understand what the Quranic wisdom is. So if, as the students of the Quran, we have to be very careful about our language when we use this kind of interpretation, saying that there is no conflict between Islam and science. What a silly argument. What are you talking about? What do you mean by science? Studying the universe. Because by definition, all the Quranic arguments is based on witnessing the universe. How the universe witnesses. What are you talking conflict? There is no conflict. There cannot be. If such a subject needs to become, one thing is extremely important: we should not reduce the belief system that the Quran presents to us to faith only. Nothing to do with it. Conviction, seeing the reality, intellectually, rationally, emotionally, spiritually, being satisfied with it, always under the witnessing of the creation of the universe. That is what Quranic theology, as far as I understand. So if someone studies the universe, or if someone studies the Quran, you cannot study the Quran without referring to the universe. You cannot reduce the universe without referring to the absolute being, unless you block your mind. If a believer in the Quranic teaching blocks his or her mind to the teachings of the Quran, he says rationality, confusing with that's really ignorance, the sign of ignorance, rationalizing religion. That is a completely different subject. Rationality in Islam is rejected. Quran full of reasoning, using these words in different forms: aql, tefekkur, ulul albab, tadabbur, about the universe. About the universe. So some scientists may prefer to interpret this event without relating to the creator. It is his or her stupidity, none of my business. But it is confusing the minds of the people to argue with the scientific argue with the interpretation of the scientists, rather than talking about this stupid argument, Quran and the science, and contradicting each other. How can you separate the Quran from the universe? They both belong to the same creator, manifesting his qualities in the form of speechless demonstration of actions, in the form of speech demonstration of his speech demonstration in the form of words. But the source is the same. When you read the Quran, you are reading the universe. When you read the universe, you are reading the Quran. But if you have a right stand, you should get some training in the Quran. If you don't get it, you start reducing the beautiful Quranic method. Quranic method. You cannot separate the Quran from the universe, because universe is its witness that it is from the creator of the universe. How can you separate it? You cannot really cut the line between universe and the speech. The same source, different ways of speech. That's it. But both of them are speech. So I am excited about shouting. Why don't you remind me? Why are you shouting, the old man? Just refrain yourself. Put a break on your emotions. I mean, I get annoyed when I see the Muslims are debating with Christians. I don't know what the Christian theologians or religious clerk have their mind, but Muslims cannot be really reduced themselves to argue with Christians or the literal sayings of the Bible. Put your theology, put your theory clearly and say that this is my theory. Speak. You are free, as I am free to speak. Or let the Christians present their understanding of how they explain the universe, how they I understand, of course, the Bible. I would present how I explain the universe, how I understand the Quran separately. Present it. That's it. Don't accuse each other. Everybody has a mind and intellect. They understand, compare it, which one makes sense. Let them decide by themselves. In order to accusing the others, rather than concentrating on your doctrine, it means you are not understanding the Quran, really turning it into a debate. But the Quran does. Be careful. Rahman, we haven't studied Rahman yet. Let me see, time is almost up. But that is the essential sentence that we will follow the same line easily, inshallah, if we understand this. So the Rahman has taken a son means like of himself, of the same nature. He created something contradictory. Contradictory. Why? Absolute cannot create a give birth. This is a literal meaning of birth. Cannot, not cannot, logically impossible to assume that an absolute created something, another absolute. Why? If the second absolute is created, it cannot be absolute. It's needy to be created. By definition, it is oxymoron. Cannot be accepted by logical reasoning. We cannot talk about it. So if someone says anything of this universe is able, potentially, to create something, it must be absolute. And absolute cannot be in the form of a created thing like the whole universe is. Contradictory. It means for our today's life conditions, living conditions, it means those people who say cause and effect, cause is not the cause of the existence of effect. Cannot be. It means a created part of this universe cannot be the creator of anything else, including itself. That is what we should read, the translation of this verse. They say the most merciful has created something to be able, which has the ability to create another thing. It means nothing of the part of this universe has the quality to create. Look, common ground. If you ask anybody who follows this Christian doctrine in any form, he would agree with this. Do you think the part of this universe has absolute qualities? Don't say Jesus has the quality to create. But Quran says prophets, all prophets, perform miracle with miraculous creation, with God's creation, God's permission, bi'idhnillah, with the permission of God. It means God's creates at their hand through their, prayer, touching, or splitting something, so that this extraordinary creation, ordinary according to us, extraordinary. Otherwise, it's ordinary, because they're created. Everything is created ordinary. So this extraordinary creation of anything is to confirm that this man's claim to be employed by the creator of the universe, who is called God, approved by the creator of the universe through the way no one can do it. It means extraordinary, against my customary way of seeing the order of the universe running, operating. It is extraordinary. It means the order of the universe, which is created within the order of the universe. This order is the way you are accustomed with. And the miracle is created by the same creator is an exceptional case, temporary exceptional case, for a really very wise purpose to confirm the claim of a man saying that I am employed by God. Unbelievable. I understand the first generation of the people who said, Muhammad is crazy, Jesus is crazy. The children of Israel said, you are crazy saying that I am the prophet. I am employed by God. Of course, later on it changed the form, Son of God. But Jesus never said this as far as the available sources or gospel sources. That is interpretation. Of course, Muslims can interpret many things in the Quran in a way that maybe my interpretation is wrong. So take it, that is Ali's mistake. That's it. Don't say Quran's mistake. But people argue with each other, although they are arguing with each other's relative understandings, limited interpretations of the text. They say, this is the mistake in the Bible. Shut up, man. It is the mistake of the one who is interpreting it, if it is a mistake. So the same thing goes for the other people. This is the mistake in the Quran. Shut up. This is if it is a mistake, it is the mistake of the one who interprets the Quran. Don't accuse the sources. Accuse the people who interpret it. So you can take the Bible, I did, practically I did, especially the Torah. So the essential theological argument goes on in the Torah. Torah, this 5 main books. You can read it and interpret the verses of the Torah according to your understanding of the Quran. About theological subjects, not other social, political, economical contexts. These are practical problems. If you come to the Muslim world, you see the argument, fight, according to the political, mainly political, social, and economical context. Don't confuse. This is people's understanding, putting into the political context, political, economical, or social, administrative context. This is the human construction. Go to the theology interpreted. Don't say, when you interpret it, you twist it. That is your understanding. That's good for you. Leave the people interpret, because there is no other way. Without interpreting the text, there is no other way to have access to the text. You have to read it within your own capacity. How large your capacity is cannot be absolute. Admit it, man. But it doesn't mean that the source of creation, the word, source of the Quran, is relative, absolute, remains with the absolute truth. remains with the absolute one. Inshallah, this very essential point, as far as I understand, if we are studying the story of Jesus in the Quran, that is the point we have to talk days and days and days. This is worth it. Otherwise, what shall I do with the story of the life of Jesus or life of Muhammad? What shall I do with it? Essential point must be clarified. And then you continue extra or extensional explanations, like the Quran does in the surah of that what we referred to, because of the derivative nature of walad comes from walade, yulide. Yeah. So yulad, yalid, the same form, all of them. So I have to go there. I had to go there. Now, since we went there, Quran, even after giving this really understandable way of explaining what absolute is, it concludes with even the simplest way of saying it. Nothing at all in the universe can have the quality of its creator. Now, there is no example of it, means this actually. Speaking in a clear language, don't limit yourself with the literal translation. Nothing like of it at all. There is nothing like of it. No, say, look, nothing in the universe, in the created form, apart from its source of existence. It is not created, by the way. It has its own nature of existence. We don't know level of existence. We cannot imagine. But of course, Quran is speaking to me. And when he speaks to me, I have to understand it within the conditions of my life. It means in the universe. So nothing of the universe, it means, can have the absolute quality. So take care of the universe. Take care of everything. When we study it, you will understand that it cannot be absolute. It's needed to be created. It has to obey the order. It's a slave of the will of its creator to be there, to be here, function this way. That's it. She cannot do otherwise. How can I say it's absolute? Complete slave cannot be absolute. Complete 100%, not 99.999. No, 100% dependent being. Nothing in this world can come into existence, doesn't have the quality to give existence to itself and to another thing, but the order of the universe takes in sequence. As long as this is in sequence, we say order, and in the course of time, we forget that this is the way of creation. We say, the relationship, the chain of causes. I think this just shows that how we are not careful what we are talking about, what our theology, what our belief system is based on. That is just not being educated. It's a sign of not being educated in just using the sloganic language and speaking in a simple way. I respect people when try to convince people that Islam is superior religion, the last perfect religion. I respect their effort, but I say, please, while we are doing this sacred job, don't be simplistic arguing with another pastor or another Christian authority saying that I am going to defend the Bible. Don't get into argument and debate. But you can just sit here and say, this is my idea. This is my understanding of the Quran, not the Quran, my understanding of the Quran. present your understanding of the Bible. I would love to listen to you. And Quran student, that is the last point. A Quranic student can read the Bible and Torah in their theological argumentations. You can easily see that they are talking about the same God. But I'm not saying in contextualizing the text within a social, political, economical framework. I cannot defend Torah. I cannot somehow the Bible. But I know that it is the interpretation of the authors of the Bible. It means interpretation of comprehension of the authors of the four canonical Bible. So this is the interpretation. You see the gist there? Still, as the Quran says, there is light and guidance in the Torah and in the Gospel. There is. Quran says, try to read it and see the gist is still there. The core values are still there. Don't undermine each other. Help each other. Look, let's understand this verse from the Bible in this way. And the Christians will say, let's understand this verse in the Quran in this way. Help each other rather than undermining each other and leaving the area to atheistic, secular ideologists. Unfortunately, it is heartbreaking, the reality of the world now, Muslim and Christian. Unfortunately. Okay, you guys are here to listen to this. I cannot talk to anyone else. Another person is here, my friend is here. She can understand me, and you are here, understand me. No one else can listen to me. I said even as a joke, even my wife doesn't listen to me. So how can I speak to these people, millions of viewers and in their videos and readers? They never told me. Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't see what ideally should be according to me. Excuse me, I'm not passing a judgment. According to me, something is going on wrong in these monotheistic religions. Compete, undermine, and atheism is invading the world. How can you not feel sorry for it? Of course, we study Saturday a book which is called The Race. The author of this book is complaining about this horrible station of the world, saying that stop this argument. I benefited from his guidelines, how to approach the case and learn from his writings, how to really understand the Quran. That's why I gathered this mainly from his guideline of thinking. So I share it, but I must, I shouldn't, how do you say, prejudice, no, not prejudice, no. Taking others' knowledge and applying to yourself, and as if you're presenting it as if yours. No.
Plagiarize.
I shouldn't plagiarize. I have to be honest saying that these ideas or Said Nursi's ideas. That's what I understood. I shouldn't say his ideas. It was a mistake again. That is what I benefited from the Gnostics writings. And I understood that this really makes sense now, explains the reality of this world now. And we have to share it with those people who have good intention. Inshallah. That is what I have today. And Alhamdulillah, I think we covered the verse 88 today. Inshallah. And next day, all our job will be easy, very easy, based on this. This is the foundation of the life of Jesus. Wherever in the Quran, Jesus is mentioned, be careful, somehow it relates to given power to any part of this universe. It means causes. Causes creates, causes does this. It means natural development, etc. It means the chain of cause and effect, as they call it. I don't accept this expression, cause and effect, because there is no cause in the universe. Universe is nothing but nothing but consists of effects of its creator. So this is a very misleading concept and creeped into everybody's mind. And in our language, also we use cause and effect, cause and effect. There is no cause and effect. In the universe, there is order, which consists of only effects, but within an order. That is our misconception. Confusing the order with causes. Causes what? Causes what? Cause means to be the reason of existence of something. I'm sorry, I keep extending it, and being boring, and also repetition. So inshallah, we will continue. Thank you very much. And I have to really see if anybody is raising hands or opening, unmuting itself to speak. No, let's stop, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Bi hurmati sirri surat al-Fatiha.